And that's the moment when everything completely changed for me for the rest of my life. And I'm like, what even is happening? Something else completely took over my mind, body, and soul. And I was just being the observer, seeing what is happening. To be very honest, no amount of preparation, no amount of hearing about somebody else's experience, no amount of research or anything else that you go in expecting will not be how you truly actually experience everything when you are in ceremony. Because first of all, everybody gets to experience things differently, and even me, my experience on day 1 versus day 2 versus day 3 and day 4 were all completely different. No two ceremonies were the same. In this 3D, we can only comprehend certain things, and so much more that is actually available to us in reality is beyond our 3D comprehension. And that's another aspect of sitting in ceremony with Mother Ayahuasca, is that you are kind of breaking down the 3D barriers and you're stepping into other dimensions and you're getting to experience things that are not available to us in this 3D. Welcome to the Inner Golden Hour podcast, where dreams take flight, mind, body, and soul get a serious holistic upgrade, and personal evolution transforms into a shared spiritual adventure. Consider this your dedicated sanctuary for exploration, self-discovery, unfiltered truths, diverse perspectives, and some much-needed heart-to-heart real talk. Hi, I'm your host Kusum. I'm a mindset and manifestation life and business coach. Think of me as that best friend you never knew you needed. The one unafraid to call out your BS, deliver a dose of tough love, and hit you with some truth bombs. This podcast is more than just a series of episodes. It's a transformative experience, guiding you to dig into your truths, ditch those old limiting beliefs, and fully embrace the real authentic you. It's an invitation to align your mind, body, heart, and soul, to dream big, to explore what truly lights you up, and to manifest a reality that surpasses your wildest imagination. Envision this space as the magical golden hour when everything radiates with a breathtaking glow, revealing the depths of your inner world. Now, come along and immerse yourself in a perpetual flow of inspiration, insights, and massive transformation across all areas of your life. Let's explore the extraordinary, one enlightening episode at a time. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to a very special episode on the podcast today, where I will finally be taking you on a journey through my ayahuasca ceremony. That is day 1 of my ayahuasca ceremony. And if you've not caught up on my previous episodes of the ayahuasca ceremony, then please go catch up on those episodes and then come back to this podcast, and then we can continue along. All right. Alright, let's get right into it, people, because we are 4 episodes in and I've yet to talk about ceremony number 1. I know. I'm surprising even myself. I know I can talk and I know I can get into the super nitty gritty details of things if I want to, but this is next level even for me. Anyhow, so as we wrapped up at the ayahuasca 101 session and headed back to the dining hall, because by that time it was almost lunchtime, the anticipation was building up, especially after hearing so much from the shaman and the other facilitators. The anticipation, the nervousness, the excitement, all of that were building up, and I could not wait for 7 p.m. to come around, because that's the time when we have the ceremony. And this was just about, I think, 1 o'clock still. So had to wait another 6 more hours. Again, we had the most delicious lunch at the dining hall, and this time I chose to sit at the noble silence table because I like to process things. Like I said, I'm somebody who loves connecting with people, but I also love to just take my time and space and not interact with anybody, and that's exactly what I did. Sitting at the noble silence table, watching the beach, watching the birds fly all over, and also one of the birds came and sat right across from me as if it were a sign from the universe that afternoon. So that was beautiful to watch. I also happened to have a photo of that. And I wrapped up lunch and I meant to go back to my hotel room and rest for a little bit. Oh, by the way, we also had a medical check. Everybody was assigned a specific time from 1 to 4, during which we had our medical checks. one last final check to make sure everything is fine. We are all clear to sit in ceremony with Mother Ayahuasca. That was all fine. Then I wanted to go to my room and rest or sleep for a little bit because our ceremony itself starts at 7 p.m. and it goes on for several hours after that. So I was like, hey, maybe I should rest for a bit. And I went back to my room, and my roommate, I think she was already there. And one thing about my roommate, she was an amazing roommate. She was very accommodating. She was so lovely. She was so friendly. I adored her. Just being in each other's presence was also amazing. But the biggest pain point for me was that she snores. And I am somebody that the lightest of noise is going to wake me up. And if somebody is snoring, I will not be able to sleep even for a little bit. She was sleeping and snoring, and I couldn't just fall asleep. I just got out of bed. I changed into my swim clothes, went to the swimming pool. By the way, the swimming pool overlooks the beach and it's an infinity pool. Again, stunning all around. I spent some time in the pool, and on the days of ceremony, you don't get dinner. You get to have some fruits at 4 p.m. and you don't get dinner, and there's a reason for that, which I will divulge in real soon. I think I grabbed a banana or something at 4 p.m. and then went back to my room, showered, changed, got ready. I headed back to the beach area. I wanted to again sit in more stillness, more quiet, setting the intentions, thinking about all of the things that were coming up for me as a result of being there. And that was just an ongoing process. You will hear me say this over and over again, but that's just how I process things. I allow for things to come to the surface. I love my own company. I love sitting in stillness. I love silence. I love quiet. So I went over to the beach, walked over there for a little bit, and then came back to the grass, sat down while closing my eyes, lighting my incense stick, just expressing more gratitude to Mother Nature and to the universe for bringing me here to get the blessings of Mother and Grandmother Ayahuasca. And as I was sitting there, I was also expressing more gratitude for all the things that had happened to bring me here to this very moment. I couldn't believe how blessed I was feeling in that moment. I couldn't express just how grateful I was. Oh, and the other thing was, I also got my period on that day. Yes, it might be TMI for a lot of you people, but again, people, it's just like peeing and pooping. You get your periods, so what? The reason I'm mentioning this is this year, like clockwork, I've been to so many retreats, and every retreat or any auspicious occasion, I'm on my moon cycle. And the moon cycle has coincided with the full moon, and even on that day it was the same thing. I had my period, it was a full moon. How incredibly powerful is that? I just had to make a note of that. So all of these little things that lead up to the big things, right? So sitting there thinking about all of these things, watching the sunset, it was all feeling like this was next level experience. I also continued to set more intentions, or just call in or just surrender to Mother and Grandmother Ayahuasca, saying that I'm here to fully surrender. Please help me through any resistance, any kind of ego, any kind of self-sabotaging pattern that may pop up. Please help me see through all of that. I also set the intention to say that I'm ready to have my mind blown, my eyes wide open, my eyes ready to see the visions I've yet to see, hear insights, wisdom, and guidance to help me keep moving forward, to step into next level unconditional love and next level extraordinary superpowers. I also stated that I'm ready and willing to be held, to be helped, and to be witnessed. Just flipping through my journal here, and I see that I have written down 2 to 3 more pages of intentions that I wrote, which I won't be sharing here. Those are for me, my personal writings. And one thing was sure is that I was ready to witness infinite possibilities, to see and meet all the future versions of myself, and also to experience any and all kinds of magic and any and all kinds of miracles that I was going to experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And with that, the sun had almost set. It was time for me to go back to the room, drop off my cell phone, my aura ring, and any other devices. We are not allowed to carry any devices with us into the temple during ceremony. So went back to the room, dropped everything off. Then I started making my way over to the temple. Again, my heart is racing. I'm feeling all kinds of feelings in my body. Yet there was this sense of ultimate peace, this feeling of ultimate bliss. And I walked over to the temple, and as I walk inside, I noticed that the setting inside this temple this time around, compared to the last two times I was there, is completely different. So for the ceremonies, the way they set up the inside of the temple is completely different. First of all, there's no lights. All the lights are almost dimmed, which they will completely switch off once the ceremony begins. And there's these small candles that's lighting up the space. And by the way, there's no mirrors inside the temple. There's several bathrooms, there's several sink area, but there's no mirror, unlike other restrooms where you find a mirror or two by the bathroom. None of those here, for a reason. As I walk inside the temple, I noticed there were just as many mattresses as there were the number of participants. Each mattress has a blanket on top of it, and next to it there's a small basket with a roll of toilet paper and a bucket next to the mattress. More on that bucket later, because that bucket is your life savior and you hold on to that bucket with your dear life. I make my way over to the mattress area, and by every mattress there's your name written next to the mattress to say which mattress belongs to which participant. And I believe that there's also an ancient wisdom strategy around where they place each participant during the ceremony. And right across from all the participants' mattresses are all in a circular fashion, laid out next to each other, with of course some space next to each mattress, next to each participant. And at the front of this circular setup is an altar with beautiful flowers and other things that they need for the ceremony. Right by the altar is also mattresses for all the facilitators and also the shaman. This was the time when we were all going to start meditating. One of the facilitators would lead us through a meditation before the ceremony each day, and we are all sitting there quietly in anticipation. My heart is beating faster and faster and faster, and I'm starting to feel so restless. I'm like, oh my gosh, can they just get started with it? How much longer do we need to wait? And of course, we have no way to tell time because we don't have our cell phone or any of that. I'm like, okay, can we get started, please? That impatience is kicking in, and slowly but surely they are cleansing the entire place, because they continue to do that throughout the ceremonies, of course, to keep all of the energies in that space in check. They're smudging, they're saging, all that good stuff. I'm loving watching all of that. At the same time, I'm like, can we stop this and get started with the ceremony? And of course, I too carried my crystals and other things that I wanted to use to set up my own altar next to my mattress. And I did just that. I also had my journal with me, so I started writing again, because that's one way to overcome the restlessness that I was feeling inside me. And luckily, soon enough, we got started with the meditation. And then I was like, okay, it's all starting. All right, it's happening. Okay, let's do this. So they walked us through the meditation. As the meditation ended, we saw that the shaman was in the temple, and the shaman usually brings a bottle that contains the ayahuasca brew, the sacred plant medicine. And they say that each brew is different. Depending on the brew, it can be really bitter or really sweet or somewhere in between. And of course, there's no way to tell what our brew is going to taste like on that specific day or that specific week. Okay, so here comes the moment of the day when we all get ready to go get our ayahuasca drink. We start off at the top of the circle. The first person goes, gets her shot, she drinks that, and then we go in the same order, one after another. Each person goes to the altar, gets their shot, and then they get back to their mattress. Soon enough, it was my turn. I walked over to the shaman. I put one hand on my heart, extended my other hand out to get the shot from the shaman. What the shaman does is he actually reads your energy, reads your aura, and then prepares the shot. I think they started me off with 3/4 of a glass, and they'd also told us beforehand that morning that we might start you off with a smaller shot, and there may or may not be an opportunity for you all to get another dose. The first dose was, I think, 3/4 of a glass for all of us, or they were pouring it based on the energy that the shaman senses from each person. So I got 3/4 of a glass, and then you just set your intention one more time or state your intention in your mind. I was kneeling down, setting my intention one last time, surrendering all of that to Mother Ayahuasca, then bowed down to the earth, to the shaman, to the facilitator. Then you shouldn't be sipping on this like it's a glass of water, but they say you should just gulp it down like a shot. And that's exactly what I did. I just gulped it down like a shot, and at first I felt like, what are they talking about? This feels like cacao chocolate. I consume cacao pretty much every single day, the purest form of cacao. I add that to my protein shake, and I'm like, oh, this tastes like pure cacao. What are they talking about? This being bitter or sweet or whatever. I love this taste, and that was my story first time around. And then I walked back over to my mattress with so much reverence for what I was there to experience, for what I was there to witness. I walked over to my mattress, and then suddenly I start feeling like, when you drink a glass of water, when you like drink too fast, you feel like it got stuck in your throat somewhere, or it went in the wrong pipe or something like that. And that's kind of what I was feeling, because I was in such a hurry to just take the shot or gulp everything down all at once, because that's kind of what they keep stressing upon. And I felt like it went in some wrong passage or wrong pipe or something like that. I was like, oops, this doesn't feel right. I was just patiently waiting for everybody else to go get their shot. And here you're sitting there expecting something to start happening in your body. So once they served the ayahuasca drink to everybody else, they kind of completely turned off all the lights. And the reason that the ayahuasca ceremonies mostly are held during night, that was one of the questions that I had, was because ayahuasca is working with your subconscious, and the subconscious mind is typically associated with the darkness, with nighttime. But even on that day, because it was full moon, if we looked outside the window, we could see the biggest, brightest, most beautiful full moon right outside the window. So there was that light coming through, but yet inside the temple, it was completely dark except for one or two candles. Oh, the other thing that I forgot to mention earlier is that each of us are also given instructions to bring like a headlamp, because you don't have any light, and if you need to get up and walk over even to the restroom, which is about, let's say, a 30-second walk, which when you are in ceremony and when you are under the influence of the ayahuasca drink, the walk from your mattress all the way over to the toilet feels like it was a year long, or it feels like it took forever. And you need the headlight for that, otherwise you won't be able to, first of all, you're not in your senses, so without the headlamp you won't be able to make it in one piece all the way from your mattress to the toilet or to the bathroom. And without the headlamp and the bucket, I have no idea what else would have happened with me besides everything else that had happened during the ceremonies. So there's that. All right, back to me impatiently waiting, wondering if I took the ayahuasca shot correctly or incorrectly, and eagerly waiting for them to get started with whatever it is that they needed to get started with. I was not sensing, feeling anything. Everything was feeling like eternity. I was waiting and waiting and waiting. Nothing was happening. So I was questioning, should I actually go tell them that I feel like ayahuasca did not enter my throat and it's stuck somewhere in between? So, can I have another shot? Or should I just shut up and sit down and just wait to see how things were going to unfold? Soon enough, well, actually, not soon enough because that'd be a lie. After what felt like eternity, slowly but surely, they started playing music. And here's the thing about ayahuasca. Ayahuasca, even though it's in your body, it starts reacting, or rather, your body starts reacting to ayahuasca based on the music they're playing. And the songs that they sing, it's called Icaros, and along with that they're playing other instruments, music, etc., which is what kind of activates ayahuasca in your body, and your body starts reacting to the medicine in your body, to this plant in your body. And as I said, soon enough, as soon as the music started playing, as soon as they started singing, as soon as I could hear more than just the quiet silence that we felt for the last several, God knows how long, after we had taken the ayahuasca shot, it was as if a switch flipped the moment they started singing, the moment they started playing the instruments, and my body started going through all of these various sensations. All my senses started to feel like I had this heightened sense of senses, or rather, is it heightened sense of sensations and feelings and emotions and the whole 9 yards? Yeah, maybe that's what it is. So, as soon as the music and singing started, my body kind of became active by the medicine, so to speak. First, with a tingling sensation in my left hand, and I started to feel that my left hand was getting heavier and heavier. I quickly went from 0 to 100 in a matter of seconds. Or again, time is all relative in this dimension. That's kind of what I realized. Maybe it was a matter of seconds, or maybe it took years. Who knows? But those were the feelings that I was feeling. I went from 0 to 100 right away. Immediately started feeling, and I started seeing a lot of things. My eyes were closed, and I started to see different colors, different images, different figures, different shapes. It was like I was getting this feeling of being in an animated movie, like in Avatar, or even like a movie like in Matrix, because the images and the figures and the shapes that I was seeing, I don't ever recall seeing that anywhere else. Not in movies, not in real life, not in any kind of book, not in any kind of, yeah, not anywhere else. So this was like the first time I was coming face to face with so many of the images and the figures and the shapes that I was seeing in my mind's eye. And the music continued to amplify everything for me. On one side, I was enjoying every bit of the music, and I was feeling like I was this performer on a dance platform. I started to perform on my mattress. I didn't care if anybody else was watching, and I was dancing and moving my body the way I felt called to based on the music. I was totally in it, thoroughly enjoying every bit of it, and I continued to keep my eyes closed about 99.9% of the time, because when I opened my eyes, I felt like I used to be brought out of that phase, out of that mode, and I wouldn't be feeling everything as deeply as I would when I would keep my eyes closed. So, the first and foremost lesson there was to trust myself, to trust the process, and to have patience. this is kind of the work that I've done for the last several years, like trusting in oneself, letting go of the self-doubt, like trusting the process, having more patience in life. And I this is exactly what I teach my clients. And suddenly here I was on that day, on day one of the ayahuasca ceremony, I found myself exactly in that same spot. I'm like, okay, I have worked on this so much and I've overcome this, but there's still aspects of me where I still need to do more work and trust myself on the process. Because there I was during the initial few minutes questioning if I had taken ayahuasca the right way, if it is working, if it's not working, if they could just get the music started right away, etc. And very quickly, these were all the feelings and the sensations that I was feeling. So as I was feeling different things, there were like multiple things that were happening. There's this feelings that you're feeling, sensations that you're going through, analyzing, reflecting, introspecting at the same time about lessons that are coming up for you, stories that you've been telling yourself. So there is like, it's a combination of many things coming into place, and you have a tab on all of these things happening at the same time. I don't know how else to describe that. It's like maybe think of 10 different people who are responsible for 10 different things, who wear 10 different hats, and one is not aware of the task that the other is responsible for. But in this instance, I was those 10 different people. I was the one who was responsible for 10 different tasks. All of those tasks were happening at the same time, and I was 100% fully aware of different things that are happening at that exact instance. So, yeah, it's very weird. I don't know how else to explain that. So, that's kind of how I would describe the first few minutes of what I was experiencing. And very quickly, I also realized that I couldn't manage to sit up straight against the advice, which is what they told us that, earlier that day, that make sure that you're sitting upright with your spine upright as much as possible. I could not manage to do that. So I decided to lie down. And that's the moment when everything completely changed for me for the rest of my life. And I'm like, what even is happening? Something else completely took over my mind, body, and soul. And I was just being the observer, seeing what is happening. To be very honest, no amount of preparation, no amount of hearing about somebody else's experience, no amount of research or anything else that you go in expecting will not be how you truly actually experience everything when you are in ceremony. Because first of all, everybody gets to experience things differently. And even me, my experience on day 1 versus day 2 versus day 3 and day 4 were all completely different. No two ceremonies were the same, but we can only do so much in terms of being able to put these experiences in words. And to be very honest, I think despite getting into all the depths of what I will share here, I might still only be able to capture about 15 to 20% of what I actually felt and what I actually experienced, because that's the thing about us humans in this 3D. We can only comprehend certain things, and so much more that is actually available to us in reality is beyond our 3D comprehension. And that's another aspect of sitting in ceremony with Mother Ayahuasca, is that you are kind of breaking down the 3D barriers and you're stepping into other dimensions, and you're getting to experience things that are not available to us in this 3D. So, in short, nothing, absolutely nothing can prepare you for your experience when you are in ceremony with Mother Ayahuasca. You just need to go in with an open heart and an open mind and be open to any and all experiences. And the very first message that came through for me as these conversations started happening is ayahuasca telling me that this isn't the first time we are meeting. And I was like, what? Just like, I've been sending you signals, I've been sending you messages, I have been in your energy field for a really long time. Yes, this might be the first time we are meeting face to face in person, but I have been a part of your life for a really long time. And that actually made a lot of sense as I continue to have these conversations with ayahuasca. And one thing that really caught me by even more surprise is that I was expecting ayahuasca to come in the form of my mother's energy. But it was clearly a grandmother energy that I felt, especially because I don't have a good relationship with my grandmother. The relationship between my grandmother's family and our family has been rocky for decades now, for all the things that they've done to our family. Anyway, another story for another time. But I wasn't expecting ayahuasca to come into my presence in the form of grandmother energy, but it was clearly that. So, that in and of itself was like a shock to my system. However, the spirit, when ayahuasca starts talking to you, you hear everything that you hear in your own voice, in the way that you would communicate, maybe. So, the energy that I felt, the conversations that were happening from ayahuasca was in my own voice, but I have no control over what I'm hearing or saying or sensing. It was a very loving but a very stern voice, and the voice had this kind of my kind of sense of humor, which is very slapstick, in your face, and I am very straightforward. I can be blunt, I can be loving, all at the same time. So that's exactly the presence that I felt, and that's kind of how our conversations flew as well. So the conversations, the people, all the situations, everything started to happen. It was all like it was moving from one scene to another, as if I was watching a movie and I was watching like 3 to 4 different movies all at the same time, and I was part of every single movie, but I had no control of what the characters were saying or doing or anything that I was experiencing. So without any effort or without any conscious choice from my side, everything was happening. So the responses that were coming through for me, while clearly were in my own voice, but I could totally say that it was not my conscious that was speaking or saying these things. And one thing that was very evident was there were at least 3 different conversations happening at once. Also, there was a lot of context switching over and over and over again, and switching between conversations with different people and different experiences and different lessons, coming in and out, coming in and out, coming in and out for me. And the way I can explain that or put into perspective is, when you have 2 little kids at home, there is at least 3 different conversations happening at the same time. And all 3 of these conversations are on completely unrelated topics. And that's exactly what I was experiencing even in ceremony with Mother Ayahuasca. And the first thing I started to feel was like very nauseous early on. As soon as I lied down, in just a few minutes after that, I started to feel extreme discomfort and started to feel really, really, really nauseous. For me, my association of throwing up is, first of all, nobody likes to throw up. None of us enjoy that unless there's something really bothering you that you want to just get out of your system. But for me, there's another level of discomfort or association that I have with throwing up, is the feelings that I got, or it took me right back to the flashback 2 years ago, when I was not when I was giving birth. This was right before I went into labor, or right before my daughter was born. It took me right back to that place where the sensations, the feeling of like throwing up has other kinds of trauma response that evoked in my body. And I had to come face to face with those feelings. Even though I have done so much work with this in the last 2 years to address that, there's still something else that needed to be addressed, and became very evident in the first few minutes. Along with everything else, every other message that was coming through, this was also a strong indication by Mother Ayahuasca that I needed to completely acknowledge those sensations of nausea and feeling gross about throwing up, and also just being okay with like throwing up and moving past that. So that needed to happen for me. So that was like the very first thing that I experienced physically in my body, the discomfort. So then I grabbed my bucket and put it right in front of me, but I had my eyes closed. I was like, okay, I might throw up any minute, I might throw up any minute, I might throw up any minute. And then as soon as I threw up the first time, my body is going through so much discomfort, way beyond I have ever experienced ever before in my life when I've thrown up. This was a very, very intense sensation that I was feeling. And the other thing about ayahuasca is that you feel everything in your body is heightened so much more. Every sensation, every feeling, every discomfort, anything that you're feeling, whether it is bliss or joy or sadness or any of those feelings, they're all heightened and amplified. And even this process of throwing up felt that much more draining to me in my body. As I threw up, my eyes were still closed, but I started getting this message from ayahuasca. She's telling me that no, you've got to keep your eyes open. You're not going to close your eyes. You've got to see your own bucket. And I was like, okay, oh my god, this is really hard for me to do. I can't open my eyes. First of all, I'm still processing, or my body is still processing and releasing or letting go of the trauma that it has held on to from around my daughter's birth. And now ayahuasca is also asking me to look at that bucket, like whatever I've thrown up, asking me to open my eyes, put my face down in the bucket, and look at what I had actually thrown up. So I slowly opened my eyes, and then, yes, it is very dark. The room is entirely dark, but yet in the bucket, I started to see shapes. And one of them was a lush green, fully blossomed tree. I was like, wow, this is beautiful. How am I seeing this in darkness? How am I seeing colors? Like when you really open your eyes and when there is light, all you see in your bucket is like a gross, disgusting brown vomit of yours. But now I'm actually seeing a completely different shape. This was the first time when I threw up. And this throwing up episode continues to happen every single day with every single ceremony on different levels. On that day, the first time I threw up, that lush green tree. And the next time I threw up, it was the time I saw my baby, the miscarriage that I had a year after I'd given birth to my son. So this was like me seeing that, where the baby is telling me that I knew this for a long time in my heart. I've known this, that the baby that I miscarried right after I had my son, a year after I had my son, that is my daughter who's come back. And this bucket or this vomit is talking to me and telling me that it was me. I came and then I left because you were not ready then. So I had to leave and come back when you were actually ready. And oh my god, I can't tell you how I felt in that moment when I heard that message come through for me. It was a truly, as a mother, it was something else. I can't, again, like I said, I can never do justice explaining the experiences or the feelings that I felt during ceremony. So, yeah, the purging continued, the vomiting continued. And I also felt like all of this, like so much of whatever I was experiencing with the first few rounds of purging or vomiting or throwing up was me finally fully healing my mind, body, and soul from the traumatic birth experience and the feelings and experiences and all of the associations that have been tied to my daughter's birth. So I felt like that was completely 100% healed on that day. And that was kind of the first level of healing that my body needed to go through for me to experience everything else. But oh my god, it was, yeah, the first time that you throw up is something else. Like after that you kind of know what to expect, but the first time it hits you out of nowhere, and that sensation that you feel in your body is, oh my gosh, I'm getting chills even as I describe that right now. So after that purging episode, the conversations continued to happen. And the other thing that I realized was that for me, I was feeling so cold in my body, and at the same time, I'm sweating profusely. How do you describe that? I have this blanket over me, I'm feeling so cold, and I'm also sweating at the same time. I take off the blanket, I put on the blanket. This continues, like so much discomfort. And the conversations are all happening at lightning speed. And as the conversations continued, there was like a lot of transformation happening on one side and a lot of healing happening on the other side. And I'm very present to every conversation that was happening too. And four different generations came through for me that night. Yes, four different generations. And oh my God, are we a talkative bunch or what? And in that one ceremony, I felt like I was going back and forth between 40 years and four different lifetimes. It's crazy. It's insane. Yes, to be able to process all of that in this human mind is obviously not possible. And that's why we have to access other levels of consciousness and other dimensions and other realms to be able to even sit with these feelings and these things that are coming up in ceremony. So, with that, the very first thing that I distinctly remember is things that came through for me with respect to my husband and my relationship. The first thing that I remember is like it took me back to 13 and a half years ago when I was looking for my life partner. One of the things that I remember thinking about, or one of the things that was like a non negotiable for me, was finding a partner who knew how to handle me. Yes, now that might come across as a really bad phrasing, but what I meant to say back then was because I am somebody who knows what I want to do. I'm very opinionated. I am stubborn, as they say, but I know what I want, and I'm not like how you would expect a typical Indian girl to be when she gets married, etc. And I have a very strong mind of my own, and I wanted somebody who knew when to like encourage me and who would not have any qualms about saying that's absolute BS, no, we are not doing that, or who would call me out on my own BS. That's kind of what I was expecting. For the lack of better words, back then I used to think that I want to find a partner who knows how to handle me. So this time around, what came through for me was, Kusum, when you said you wanted a partner who knows how to handle you, what you actually meant was who knows how to hold space for you and your growth without feeling scared or without feeling insecure. I was like, oh my god, mic drop moment. That's exactly what our life has been the last 13 and a half years. We have evolved so much as individuals and as a couple in the last 13 years. It truly blows my mind. And this is exactly what my expectation was. I didn't know how to put that in words back then. My vocabulary, my knowledge, or the wisdom, I didn't have this level of wisdom back then. But truly, he's truly been that person who knows how to hold space for my growth and my expansion without feeling any kind of insecurity or without feeling like, oh my god, what is she up to now? What is all of this woo woo stuff, right? While he and I are on slightly different paths there, which is amazing. We are two different people, but at the same time, it doesn't make him freak out. It doesn't make me question, or he doesn't question even saying that, what is this woo woo stuff that you're doing? Because I am the more esoteric, I'm more in the la la land, up in the clouds, and he's somebody who's more grounded, more centered, and more planet Earth, so to speak. But he knows exactly how to hold the space for me without even me having to ask for it or without even me having to say anything about it. And our relationship has just evolved so naturally and so beautifully over the years. So, what came through for me was that we are soulmates for our lifetimes. One thing I've realized or I've understood in the last 13 plus years of being in a relationship with him is that, and also by just looking at other people, other couples around me, is that you could be good partners, you could have a good marriage, you could be good friends, etc. But it doesn't necessarily translate to you being with your soulmate. And when you are with with your soulmate, it hits differently. So there's a big difference between having a good marriage with your partner and being married to your soulmate. And that's just the understanding that I've come to. And what came through for me in the ceremony is Vinay and I are true soulmates, and we are soulmates for life. And that's exactly how I've felt from the moment we first came into each other's lives. And for me to experience that when I was in ceremony, and for that to be like the very first things that came through, was such a beautiful experience and such a beautiful acknowledgement, or maybe even appreciation, for the fact that I never gave into society's BS of calling my desires for how I wanted my partner to be, that they always associated that with the fact that, hey, you live in this la la land, or you're asking fairy tale marriage, or etc etc etc. But I never gave into that. I held my own. I don't know where that belief came from. I held my own. I was like, okay, this is the kind of partner that I want to find and get married to, and that's exactly what I manifested. And this is why I say my husband has been my biggest unconscious manifestation, and every single day I wake up next to him being so grateful for him, for our marriage, for our family, for this beautiful loving relationship that we have cultivated, how we've evolved as people, and how we are raising our kids. So it was so beautiful to experience that even during ceremony. And very quickly, right around this time, my great grandmother interrupted the conversation, or maybe the thought process, and she's like, here's the deal. You better understand and better convey that I was the one who found Vinay for you. Because I always keep saying that I was the one who found me him and who found him me. And my great grandmother was very clear, no, it wasn't you. I was the one who brought him and put him on your radar. I was like, okay, all right, I get the message. Why can't I just still toot my own horn and say that I was the one who actually found him? Anyhow, message received, great grandmother. And in the meantime, the other thing that I also experienced, when I cling on to my husband as if I was indicating how much I've missed our time together. And I'm actually feeling his presence there, even though he's not there. Or maybe I was feeling my presence back home here. And I was also being there in Costa Rica and back here too with him. So it was all like everything was super real. And I was feeling everything all at the same time, like I said. I felt like that was coming through for me because since I gave birth to our daughter back in 2021, our life is completely turned upside down. So much has happened since then. We had the baby, the traumatic birth experience that I had to, process and navigate and get myself out of. And there was so much transition that was happening for not just me, but also for like having a little baby at home. We were going through home renovations. We were thinking of moving. We were packing. We were doing so many things. And the last 2 years have been such a whirlwind because for the most part, we didn't have any help. It was just Vinay and me managing everything. And while we were making sure that everything got done, we were giving each other the space and the time to do whatever it is that we wanted to do, I still missed our time together, especially with a baby who we're taking care of. And when at this point, when I went to the retreat, she was still 1.5 years old, and we were just getting her, sleep trained to sleep by herself. And up until then, Vinay and I would manage her one night, alternate nights, and we were sleeping in separate rooms too, so our sleep schedule didn't completely get messed up. She was sleeping with me one night and she would sleep with him one night, and this was the time around when she was just getting used to sleeping by herself. Because first of all, with so much transition that was happening for us in the year 2022, this was like very new for her too, to like get into a routine and settle down, where we were not living out of boxes, or we were not like moving from one place to another. For the first time, she was also getting used to and experiencing normalcy, etc. So it's not her at all. She's a baby after all, but it's just that we were going through so much transition as a family in the last 2 years. It definitely didn't give Vinay and me the time that we like to spend with each other. So I feel like during ceremony, I cling on to him and I say that, oh my gosh, I've missed our time together so much, and we need to bring that back. back. And I also tell him, or rather demand, that he tells Adu, that's our daughter, that she needs to go sleep in her own bed so she can give Mama and Dada their time and space together. And by this time, my love for my husband quadrupled or even 10x during ceremony. I fall in love with him more and more each and every single day in the last 13 plus years. And just being in ceremony and just our entire life flashing before our eyes during that short span of the ceremony, I fell in love with him even more than I already love him. How lucky is he? Well, I know I'm also the lucky one here because we both manifested each other into our lives. And a really strong message that also came through for me is that, like I said, my husband's path and my path are not exactly the same. And it's not supposed to be the same. We are on our own spiritual growth journey. But sometimes I feel like he is not doing as much as I am doing in that department. Again, it happens super unconsciously when I share something with him, and when he immediately doesn't get that, that's when it's like it's happening on a very unconscious, subconscious level where I'm like, oh my gosh, how can you not get that? So it's those simple things. But immediately, ayahuasca is telling me that he doesn't need to grow the same way that you do. He, in fact, grows simply by giving you the space to do your thing and grow, by holding that space for you. I'm like, oh my gosh, aren't you a smarty pant? I do all the hard work and you get to reap the benefits of it all. Truth be told, I love doing this work. This gives me a high. What can I say? Going through deep, shitty moments while being on this spiritual path also gives me a kind of a high. So that's that. And as I was saying, there were several different conversations happening, right, simultaneously, and they were all happening without me controlling any of it. And so much of the conversations were also happening in Kannada, that is my mother tongue, like fast, rapid pace. And I wasn't having these conversations silently in my head, but all of these conversations were also vocal, as if I was actually talking to each of these people from my lineage, each of these people from my life. The only people that I right now speak to in Kannada are my parents and my in-laws. But other than that, even with my husband, so much of our conversations happen in English. So I'm not as in touch with speaking in Kannada as much as I would like, to be very honest. But it was so interesting to observe myself have these conversations, like fast, rapid pace Kannada conversations, even with my husband in that space during ceremony. And as I mentioned earlier, 5 different generations came through for me. So there was a lot of talking, lot of chatting, lot of healing that continued to happen throughout the night. But I will only share the highlights here and things that I feel are like appropriate for me to share here. Otherwise, we are going to be here for weeks together. Also, the other thing to note while I was having these conversations, on one hand, on the other hand, I was also continuing to purge. Like, the more I was healing, the more conversations were happening, the more I was purging, whether it was through vomit, whether it was through spitting out saliva. Like, these are all the ways, different ways in which you purge when you are in a ceremony with ayahuasca. It can be through saliva, it can be through sweat, it can be vomiting, it can be pooping, it can be peeing, yawning, burping, shaking, gas, all of that. And did I mention that I also had my periods on the same day? That was day 1 of my period. So I also sensed a great amount of purging that was happening even through my periods. And the other thing I was mentioning earlier is that you feel everything that much more amplified, whether it is the joy or the sadness or the pain. The same thing for me with respect to my periods too. I was feeling such excruciating pain because of my heightened sense of feelings and sensations. So all of that was happening too, and I could really connect the dots and see, like, as the conversations were happening, how much I was healing, how much I was letting go in terms of, like, even through purging in different formats. And my body, oh my god, it purged in every single single format possible, and that was ongoing from the moment that medicine kicked in my body or got activated in my body until after a few days after I left the retreat center. My body continued to like purge non-stop in several different ways. And to be able to even handle that level of purging, I don't know how my body could even handle that. And ayahuasca continued to tell me that you keep up with your conversations while I'll heal your body. You continue the conversations as I heal your womb. You continue your conversations as I heal your different aspects of the body. She did mention which aspects of the body, which again, I won't divulge in those details, but it was really like, oh wow, okay, keep going, I guess, is kind of the feelings that I was getting as I sensed Mother Ayahuasca relay these messages. And she continued to relay that, saying that, hey, now I'm healing this aspect of your body, now I'm healing this certain part of your body, etc. All that to say is like there were so many things in my physical body too that needed healing on so many different levels. Yes, we might look healthy on the outside, but also like as I say, there's so much our body holds on to in terms of like the energy that we need to be letting go of. While we might look healthy and physically fit on the outside, who knows what else is manifesting inside our body that might not show up right away but will certainly show up in the future. And I knew certain aspects of my body that needed healing, especially after my daughter's birth. There were certain conditions that started showing up in my body, and I have done so much work since her birth to make sure that I didn't have to be on medications and I could still heal my body. But this was next level healing that I was receiving from Mother Ayahuasca herself, which meant to say that she was taking care of everything that needed to be reset in my physical body, while I was also healing on the energetic and on the soul level. And as I mentioned earlier, my great grandmother was the first one that came through for me when she just sneakishly announced herself that she was the one that introduced Vinay to me and me to Vinay. I also sensed that ayahuasca from time to time also had this playful, fun, sharp humor kind of energy, which is kind of what I remember about my great grandmother too. The other thing that I noticed that was very sweet is the relationship between my great grandmother and great grandfather. I saw them together. They still have this adorable relationship with each other. They're both so much fun together, and there's that fun banter that's an ongoing thing between them. And that's kind of the relationship that Vinay and I also share. And my great grandfather's energy comes through for me as Lord Shiva, as if he's my ultimate protector and guide. And my mom is always looked up to both her grandfather, that is my great grandfather, and her grandmother, that is my great grandmother. And she loved them way more than her own parents, because they are the one that took care of her for a really long time in her life. Even to this day, my mom speaks of them so fondly and remembers them and misses them so much. And from my mom, as far as my mom goes, there was so much healing that I was receiving in that time, that I was also healing for my mom. So many things that she has experienced in her own life that she needs to let go of and come to her own and just be in that place where she is now enjoying her life. But there's also all of these things that is again present in her physical energy body. So I could sense that so much of the healing that I was receiving was also for my mom. And one thing that became very clear is one of the things that I dismissed when I was growing up is my mom is very soft natured. She is very sweet, very soft natured, and very loving. When I was growing up, I'd be like, why don't you stand up to these people? And why do you take all of this crap from people? And you're always so nice and so sweet to everybody that you come in contact with. And I always thought that to be like a sign of weakness. But Mother Ayahuasca is like, my child, she is the one who actually taught you a different kind of strength and courage. It takes a whole other level of strength and courage to show up with love for other people the way your mom does. I underestimated and I undervalued this in my mom so much when I was growing up. I didn't really give that enough credit. So the way my mom loves and pampers and spoils us and takes care of us, that's a different kind of strength. And that's kind of what I've picked up from my mom. I never really realized up until now is that, wow, I've always looked up to her for that, but there was always this sadness in me for her that she never, stood up to herself, never fought her battles, because she needed to teach me a different kind of lesson being my mom versus teaching me the other kind of strength. And mind you, the other kind of strength and courage, which is like the masculine strength and courage, I get that from my grandmother. Yes, the very grandmother who I didn't want to come face to face with during the ayahuasca ceremony. And I've always had this sense that my mom had always felt, especially by her parents and her immediate family, that she was unwanted and she was unloved and she was mistreated for several years in her life until she actually got married to my dad. And all of those things that she has held on to. And there was one certain memory that popped up in my head, which I haven't thought about for years now, like for decades now. But that specific memory showed up for me because there was so much healing that needed to happen for my mom and myself, because there was a certain level of fear that we both took on at that time that we hadn't completely released and we hadn't completely healed through. So as I was healing, I was also telling my Mom, it's okay. We are not there anymore. That's not our circumstance anymore. Look at your daughter. She is thriving. She is happy. She's happily married. She's doing amazing in her life. You don't have to be trapped in that memory and continue to worry about your daughter. You're a beautiful mom. I love you so much. Look how I've grown up. Look how well you've raised your daughter. And I continue to tell my mom that no matter how much I grow, no matter how successful I am in my life, no matter how strong I am, I always find comfort in your lap, and it is always going to be my safe, loving space. Because especially for my mom, I could see images of her not being wanted, not being loved, and being mistreated by her family when she was growing up. The only love that she received when she was growing up was from her grandparents, and she's carried so much of that. And to be able to let all of that go after all of these years of her life, and to actually come into that place of seeing and sensing and believing that she is so loved, she is so wanted, and she has people in her life right now that really adore her and look up to her and absolutely love her so much, right? Because yes, you can see all of these things in your own life, but when she was growing up, that inner child is still trapped in that era, which is still not aware of the truth from this era. It was as if I was going into those different timelines and healing aspects for both my mom and me, for both her mom and myself. And when it comes to my grandmother, I've done so much forgiveness work in the past because of like the brokenness of our relationship over the years. But when I was here in the ceremony, I could sense my grandmother's energy, where I actually address her like I would address my grandmother in a loving way, which I haven't done in decades. I haven't spoken to her in decades because we are not in each other's lives anymore, for good measure. In ceremony with ayahuasca, I sensed that broken relationship with my grandmother. While I've done so much forgiveness work around healing my relationship with my grandmother, there's still certain things looks like that I hadn't let go of, and that brokenness in our relationship that's been there for like decades now felt like it healed in a matter of seconds. I started looking at her with like so much love that I would feel for her when I was little. I adored her back then when I was very little, before I saw the other side of her. And I start addressing her in a loving manner like I used to when I was about 6-7 years old. And then I tell her, I think you suffered enough for all your deeds, and I think it's enough. I think it's time for you to transition over. I was getting chills as that message came through for me, as I heard myself say those things to her. And I also had to acknowledge in ceremony that I get my strong will and I get my bravery to stand up to anything and anybody actually from her, which I didn't realize. Which in fact is ironic because I've had to use the same strong will and same courage to actually stand up to her so many times as I was growing up, because my mom would never stand up. And even though I was little, I would stand up to her and I would not let her give my mom any kind of crap. But it was so ironic to witness this whole scenario or this whole scene play out. And this is exactly why it was crucial that I spent the first few years of my life with her, because I grew up with my grandmother for a couple of years when my parents were not in Bangalore at that time. So I grew up with my grandmother for a few years, and how she treated my mom had always bothered me. And my love and affection for my grandmom after that, when I would continue to see how she would mistreat my mom, slowly made me turn that love into anger and disgust. And I literally hated her when I was growing up because of how much she made my parents, my mom and my dad and us, suffer. And interestingly enough, my grandfather didn't come through at all for me. There was a brief moment where I just felt like I could smell cigarette, but there was no cigarette in the vicinity. The only thing that I can think of with respect to that is that my grandfather used to smoke a lot, and maybe it was him, and maybe I didn't want to talk to him at that point of time. I have no idea. So there was nothing else beyond that that came through for me as far as my grandfather goes. With respect to my dad, too, I could see all of the things that he has sacrificed over the years, all the things that he's done for his family, extended family, etc., and how much pain is actually kind of bottled up over the years. I kind of was able to like heal through so much of that. And I've always been in awe of my dad because I would look up to him. And when I was growing up, I didn't realize that that was street smartness. That was just the way that you are. I realized later on in life that I get my street smartness from my dad. And if he sets his mind on something, he'll go after it and he'll make sure that that thing happens. And even for me to come to the US, when he set his mind on it, even though initially he thought I was crazy to even be thinking about this, he moved mountains to make sure that I came here to the US. And that one instance is proof enough for he will not stop at nothing. I was able to heal a lot of the things that he's been holding on to for years. I know there's one thing that's been on top of his mind that's been like a worry for him for quite a while, and I assure my dad in ceremony that don't worry about this. Whatever you're worrying about right now is not even something that you need to worry about. You can let it go now because you don't have to worry about it. And my brother came through too, and we discussed a whole lot of things in ceremony. And there was so many things that needed to be healed in my lineage that was also impacting my brother. And ayahuasca told me that I was the one who was meant to be there and to heal my entire lineage, so it didn't get passed on to our next generations, whether it's my kids or my brother's kids, etc. And as you're experiencing all of these things, your body is like feeling every single bit of it. The love that is amplified, the pain that is amplified, the pain that your ancestors have felt in the past, pain that your family has been through, the pain that you have been through, all of those things. Every time a scene comes before you, it's as if you are in that moment right now and as if it's happening to you right now. So you're actually in that deep pain in that moment. You're actually feeling the pain that your mom or your dad or your grandmom or your grandfather, whoever else is coming through for you, whatever they're feeling, you are feeling that, and it's only that much more amplified because again, you are under the influence of ayahuasca. My body is like feeling weaker and weaker and weaker, and also by this time I've thrown up several times, and I also needed to go to the bathroom every once in a while. So I don't have the energy. I don't have the energy in my body to even get up and walk all over by myself, because I am like, okay, I might just collapse on the floor as I'm making my way to the bath. And one thing they say is like use a flashlight, that red light, to point at one of the facilitators and they will come and get you and help you to the bathroom. And this might be way too much TMI, but that's what it is. During the 101 session, they had mentioned there's been one instance in the past when somebody reported that they had a rainbow instance. Now, what is a rainbow? A rainbow is that you're pooping, peeing, and throwing up all at the same time. So, there was this one time that day when I flashed the red light and I was helped to the bathroom by one of the facilitators. His name is Dylan. Oh my god. Bless his soul. He was the one who has helped me those 4 days, and I can't thank him enough. No matter how much gratitude I express for him, it's too little. So there was this one instance when he walked me over to the bathroom, and I'm sitting in the bathroom, right? You are so exhausted in the toilet. You're like, you're waiting to poop, but you don't have the energy. They will wait outside. You close the door and they wait outside so they can help you back. And for me, there was this urge that I just needed to stay in the bathroom a little longer. Again, they had warned during the 101 session that you will feel these urges. You will feel like you will want to not leave the bathroom, and the bathroom will be like a vortex and it will not allow you to go back to your bed. And that's kind of what I was feeling. I was like, wow, it feels so peaceful and so calm here. Because when I was in the bathroom, all the conversations stopped. I was only physically in myself. All the conversations had stopped. There was nothing happening. I was only feeling completely drained. And it felt like such a respite from all the conversations that were happening in my head, and I needed that break. I'm telling myself that, oh my god, this feels so good, I just want to be here. But I'm also telling myself that no, this is exactly what they'd warned you against. This means you're trying to escape, and that's not what you're here for. So I had to really push myself to get up from the toilet and make my way back out. That's when a rainbow happened. The first time was in the bathroom there, and then I left. I walk out, and when I stepped out, I thanked Dylan, like, for, oh my god, thank you so much for waiting for so long. I felt like I was in the bathroom for so many hours. And when next day I was talking to him, he mentioned that I was there only for like about 10 minutes or so, and not really that long. But when you are under the influence of ayahuasca, like I said, time is relative, and I felt like I was there like forever. And a really important thing when all of this is happening, when you are going through your process, it's not like only you're going through your process. Everybody else around you is also going through their own process. So you continue to hear a lot of different kinds of voices, a lot of different kinds of noises, some that really trigger you and some that really get on your nerves. And I kept getting this message in my head. Mother Ayahuasca is telling me this is also real life. Every time you hear something, every time you sense something that's not for you, continue to say that it's not my monkey, not my circus. Stay in your own lane and do your own thing. You don't have to look, and you don't have to know, and you don't have to take care of anything else and anybody else. You don't have to anticipate other people's needs, and you don't have to do things for them by yourself. Allow them to take the initiative and ask for what they want, which is what they need for their growth. And I know this, I follow this, but I needed this reminder to actually further strengthen this message. So, all of these messages were continuing to come through for me while I was also having these conversations with my crazy ancestors. And at a random time later on, they announced that the floor was now open for those who wanted another dose of medicine. Again, it's your choice if you want to have another dose or not. And earlier that evening, they'd mentioned that there may or may not be an opportunity to get another dose. And now they'd opened up the floor for another dose. Again, the shaman senses the energy of the group and they make that decision if they are going to serve another dose of ayahuasca or not. As soon as they announced that the floor is now open for another dose of medicine, I sprung out of my bed from whatever state I was in, because I was like lying down, and I put my left foot on the floor like with a bang, like as if I was making a statement that I've arrived. I could sense this total queen like energy, which was very authoritative. And I was the first one to walk over to the shaman to get the next dose. And on the other hand, I'm also telling myself, why am I being so loud? Why am I banging my left foot on the floor so hard? Especially when I continue to tell myself that I'm supposed to be quiet and everyone else around me is going to get disturbed if I'm being so loud. So I was also trying to be conscious of others and wanted to be considerate of other people. On the other hand, my body is not listening to me. So yeah, I walked over to the shaman. This time around, I got a full glass of ayahuasca shot. I downed it all at once and then I came back to my mattress and lied down immediately. Within minutes after that, there was this continuous sensations of purging all across from my head to toe, back to front, front to back, toe to head, head to toe, everywhere, right? So the purging continued, and every time you're purging, your body is also feeling heavier and heavier, or rather, it's feeling weaker and weaker and weaker, and the medicine is playing its effect on you. And on one side, while I was having these conversations with my ancestors, on the other side, I also feel like I was talking to ayahuasca and asking her, like, hey, tell me or show me what my big vision looks like. I know my path that I am on and I love this, but I would like to see what is ahead of me. Show me my future. And I get a very clear message from her that I will only know the next step. I will only know one step at a time, and then I will never be able to see the full picture all at once. And that's when I realized that, oh my god, she is playing a me on me. I love keeping people on their toes, guessing and second guessing. I love surprises, and Mother Ayahuasca is doing the same thing to me. You're never going to get the full picture. You will only find out the next step, one step at a time. And I just got to trust that and keep moving. One thing I did realize that as all of these things were happening, I am crying. I am like sobbing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is all so painful. Oh my gosh, this is all so amazing. Oh my gosh. Yes, I'm crying out of sadness and I'm crying out of happiness. I am like a mess, a huge mess. That's how I felt that day. Anyway, now for some of the lessons. One of the things that ayahuasca told me was like, whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that you need, be super specific and be very clear on what you need, and then say that out loud. And not just say it out loud, claim it. Claim what you want, because I do the other things very clearly, like being specific and crystal clear on what it is that I want and need. I even say that out loud, but claiming it, somehow I missed that I needed to claim it before I even manifest it. So that message came through for me, and that was very clear, and that's something I truly needed to hear and integrate. The next big lesson was that I have been a planner. I am somebody who can organize things, and I've been a planner. I've operated in that masculine energy for so long. But over the years, I've stepped into more of my feminine. But ayahuasca was kind of reiterating some of those messages, some of those things that I've actually worked on over the last few years. It almost seemed like she wanted me to further go much more deeper in some of these lessons and make it even more a part of my life. So one of the lessons along those lines was that you don't always have to have a plan. You can figure it out when the time comes and not plan ahead. But you can also always change that plan and switch directions last minute. And this also actually played out for me that very day. And I was like, wait a second, this is the lesson that I got. She's already testing me on it. It was a very simple instance, but I actually saw this play out for me. Because originally, my thought when we started the ceremony was that I was going to sleep in the temple itself, because they said if you feel like you want to sleep in the temple, you're welcome to do that. If you want to go back to your room and sleep there after the ceremony is over, you're welcome to do that as well. So my plan was that I will just sleep in the temple after the ceremony is over. But to my own surprise, after the ceremony was over, I just got up, left, and went to my room. And that's when I realized that I can have a plan, I can change that any minute, and it doesn't have to mean anything. It's based on what I feel called to do in that moment. She actually showed that to me right away, and she showed that to me the next few days in small, subtle ways. And again, like I said, the universe is such a master planner, and the way it lays out things in front of you every single day, every single instance, never ceases to amaze me. All right, for the next lesson, focus on you and mind your business. You don't have to be in the know of what others are up to. This was especially because when others are going through their process, it's so easy to get distracted with what is happening because they are loud, right? Nobody wants to be loud or nobody wants to mess with your process, but everybody is under the influence of ayahuasca and they are going through their own process and they are dealing with ayahuasca in the way that they know how to best deal. And on sometimes they're like, oh, should I get up and help? Oh, do they need help? Oh, should I look over? Oh, what is happening there? Like curiosity is there. But I had to keep telling myself that mind your own business. You don't have to be in the know of what others are up to. And this is such a real life lesson too. I have done this for a large part of my life. But still, in certain instances, me being me, I want to know what is happening, especially when it comes to people that are very close to me. And Mother Ayahuasca was sending me a very strong message: no, you don't need to know. It's okay. Let them deal with that. It's none of your business. One of the biggest things that really stood out for me was how much I was craving for rest, how much my soul was craving for rest. As I said, when these conversations were happening, like non-stop conversations, I kept saying on one side that you all continue the conversation, I need to rest. I'm gonna rest. I will rest. You all continue the conversation. And I would say that, and the very next minute, I would catch myself that I was in a conversation. I was like, oh my God, how much are you guys talking? Can you all just shut up? I need to rest. I kept saying that, and that only gave me a peek into how tired and exhausted my soul is at this point and how much it craved rest. And I hope that my soul did get that soul level rest during the ayahuasca ceremony because I was very clear in saying, I need rest. I want to rest. Like, because it's the ego, right? As a person, physically, I can keep going non-stop for days together with little to no rest. By no rest, I mean like from the moment I'm up in the morning until I go to bed, I can be going non-stop for days together. And I can also function on very little sleep too. And it doesn't really get in the way of my productivity or my efficiency or how I show up. And that's been a huge part of my life. But it was so interesting to see that my soul couldn't take it anymore. So for me to actually say that out loud, I need rest. I need to rest. I don't want to do this. I feel exhausted and be vocal about it. I think it was also telling my ego to shut up and just accept that. So that was one of the biggest lessons that came through. And the other big lesson, more of like a reassurance or a reminder that came through, was I was never meant to stay small. I was always meant to use my voice and stay loud and proud. And I'm meant to pave the way. I am a performer and I'm not afraid to be the only one. And I'm not afraid to be the one to take up space. I was like, okay, yes, more of that, please, because that's how I have felt and how I've operated for a really long time in my life. And Mother Ayahuasca telling me the same thing only means that this is exactly what I'm meant to do. It's not the ego taking over here. That's truly what my soul's calling is. And the next lesson was like a kick in the butt for me from ayahuasca is of course, yes, I play hard, but it's also important to take a step back and rest just as hard without worrying that I'm not doing as much or without worrying that I'll be left behind. Mother Ayahuasca is like, nobody else can do what you do, and you can't do what others do. But deep within, even though I don't operate this way on the conscious level, looks like at the very deep subconscious level, I feel like resting means I'm taking a break. I take so much pride consciously in taking rest, but subconsciously there is this deep resentment when I'm resting. Apparently, that shows up in different formats. So, Mother Ayahuasca is like, no, you rest, you take as much rest as you want, and there's no need to attach any kind of resentment to it. When you rest enough and when you show up, there will no longer be any resentment. And she was also like, as you rest, you can watch the show others put up, because you don't always have to put up a show. You can simply lay back and enjoy the show that others put up, and that's not a threat to you. And she's like, this is a very friendly universe, and everybody wants you to win, and no one's a threat. And that came as a really strong reminder, and my inner child needed to hear that, because for me, growing up and seeing everything that I've seen and experiencing everything that I've experienced, for me, I never saw well, I look up to the universe, the source. Yes, the source is friendly, and I love, adore, and look up to the universe. But when it comes to universe, as in like people in this universe, I've always felt like I need to protect myself, but this reminder was very essential that this is a friendly universe and everyone wants you to win, because that's not how I felt when I was growing up, and that's not how I've felt for decades. But again, at the end of the day, my beliefs are what shape my world, and for me to be able to flip the script and see the universe to be a friendly place and that everybody wants me to win makes for a world of difference. And she was also like, you declare what you want and stand tall in that, and don't let others be the reason your focus is shifting outward. She also kind of yelled at me, and she's like, allow others to take care of shit and you don't have to do it all. Let go of the control and let others take lead and let them do it their way. There's no right or wrong there, there's just different. Again, this is a lesson that I needed to hear several years ago. Since then, I feel like I've let other people take charge and do their own thing. I'm like, yeah, you can do it your way, I can do it my way. But I do see every once in a while this comes up for me, especially with my husband. Yes, you're in the same house and there are certain things that you want to be done your way, like the little bit of the OCD, which I'm okay with holding on to because I don't want to completely let go of that aspect. But in so many different ways, I have let that go. Letting go of control, I have done that to a great extent. On the same lines, asking for help, which is intellectual, versus internalizing asking for help, are two different things. That is truly believing that I don't have to do all of this alone. And that's truly been a lesson that I've learned, especially in the last couple of years, that I don't have to do this all alone. I don't have to do this all by myself. I'm meant to do all of this in community. And that's why I reach out to groups or people who are actually on this path and doing very similar things. The moment I came to that realization a few years ago that, hey, I shouldn't be doing this all alone. There are other people like me on similar paths, and you need to do all of this in community. And that really takes so much pressure off of you, right? To feel like you're all alone on this journey. I'm not talking about my husband, he's always there for me, and I'm always there for him. Or I'm not talking about my immediate family, they're always there for me. But I'm talking about outside of my own family. I don't have to do this alone. I'm the biggest lone wolf that I know, especially because I became the person that's so independent and who can get anything done all on her own, all by herself, because I can be by myself. I love my company. I can work by myself. I can work all on my own. But to get to a place and say that I don't have to do this all by myself, I don't have to do it alone, please help me, letting go of that ego and stepping into that place, because again, asking for help is a sign of strength. I've realized that over the years, and ayahuasca was actually further strengthening that realization for me. And one of the things that I was sensing on and on throughout the ceremony for the most part was like bad men were coming to occupy my queendom. I saw them as a threat and I needed to like protect my queendom. And ayahuasca is like, instead of seeing them as a threat, why don't you give them a friendly smile and see what happens? And then I followed her advice And within no time, the people that I saw as threat or as bad men immediately became my protectors, my friendly protectors. They became the protectors of my queendom. And there was so many different levels of messages in that one instance. I was like, oh my gosh, I really needed to see that. I really needed to sense and feel. Like you're actually feeling, right? You're feeling how scared you are. Like imagine yourself that you're fearful, you're scared that bad men are actually coming to attack your queendom. I am actually feeling all of those feelings, and in an instance, that feeling is completely transformed or transmuted into a feeling where you feel like, oh, I'm safe. This is safe. My queendom is safe. There is no threat here. So, to feel all of those feelings, to experience all of those in a matter of few seconds or minutes or hours or years, I don't know how long that was, all of that was also like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? Yes, it is really happening. And there was this one instance where I thought I heard the Om Shiva Shambho song that one of the facilitators were singing. And I was like, are they actually singing this? Because I didn't think any of them knew like the songs from India. Like the Om Shiva Shambho song is from India. And that's one of the songs that I really connect with, especially because I connect with the energy of Lord Shiva, like I was saying earlier. Even though I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, but I still pray to the idols, not in a religious way, but in a spiritual way. And one certain figure that I connect with, or the energy that I connect with is Shiva. So I was like, okay, I'm totally hallucinating. I'm making this up. I don't think anybody is singing. But next day I confirmed that they were actually singing the Om Shiva Shambho song, which was also beautiful for me to dance to, I guess, because I continue to like move my body, however, in whatever form and fashion at whatever times throughout the ceremony. And Mother Ayahuasca was very sure in sending the message that I am here to build my own empire. I am here to build my legacy, and Vinay and I are the ones who are going to build that legacy and leave behind a legacy. And it was so reassuring for me to hear that message from Mother Ayahuasca, because that's kind of what I've envisioned for a really long time. That, hey, what is the legacy that my husband and I are going to leave behind for our future generations? What is it that we are going to build? And when I heard the words come through that you are here to build your own empire, that really further strengthened that vision that I have for me and my family and for the work that we are meant to do. And along the same lines, one thing that came up is you be clear in what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And she made me really say this out loud. I don't want to do that. I want somebody else to do that for me while I focus on doing what only I can do. And I think I repeated that message over and over again a few times that night. Along the same lines, it was like sending home the message, allow others to take care of you. You do not have to do all that by yourself. Like over and over again, that message kept coming, and focus on your process. Other people's process is their own, and what they do is none of your concern. This kept coming over and over again, especially when I would hear other people like loud noises or voices, and I would get distracted, and then I would probably be like taken out of my process for a few seconds, and then I would come back into my process when I would tell my mind, nope, not my monkey, not my circus, not my process. Let them be in their own process. I'm only focused on my process. So I had to keep telling myself that over and over again every time I felt like I was being taken out of my process because of the external noise or external voice. Oh, this was interesting that my coaching clients also came through for me in my ceremony, and I had specific messages for each of them that I shared. And I've obviously not brought back those messages with me and shared with them because it's not for me to share with them, but I did see them in my ceremony, which was really cool. And one of my biggest strengths as well as a weakness is that I anticipate others' needs, and I do that even before they ask me for it, especially when it comes to family. Mother Ayahuasca sending me that message. Don't do things by anticipating others' needs. Don't go out of your way and do something for other people. Give them an opportunity to show up and ask, or give them an opportunity to show up and do. And I think that I've done that for a large part over the last several years, but there are still certain areas that I can see where I still fall into the trap of doing things for other people before they even ask, because I am really fast at anticipating anticipating other people's needs, I need to further take a step back from that. And there was also a time when I actually saw, or rather felt, a snake travel across my left hand or left arm. And I also saw a tiger come into my vision at some point. And there's huge spiritual significance with respect to both of those. And in that instance, I was like, oh my gosh, am I scared right now or am I not? I'm actually sitting there and contemplating. I didn't know how I was feeling, if I was scared or if I was brave or what I was sensing. And it was actually as if I was right in front of the tiger. And now, as I speak about the snake crawl across my left arm, my left hand is slowly coming up in the air, which is super weird or super cool, however you want to see it. So, yeah, those were some of the things that happened as a result of Ceremony 1 when I was still in the temple. And while all of these things were happening, we were also told beforehand that when the shaman senses that the room is complete for that night, the ceremony will come to a close and they'll ring a bell. And that's exactly what they did. After a while, the ceremony came to a close and they rang a bell and they announced that it was time for us to go back if we wanted to, or we could stay back at the temple and go to sleep there. And I don't know, again, it was as if a switch flipped, and my body that was going through all of this up until then, as soon as that bell rang, I was back to normal. All the sensations left my body, all the feelings left my body. It was as if I went back a few hours to normalcy. I was like, how strange is this? And all of that again happened in a matter of seconds. And like I mentioned earlier, I decided at that point that I was just going to go back to my room as opposed to sleeping in the temple. So I got up, I grabbed all my things, and I started walking. I was so high. I was high on happiness, I was high on love, I was high on joy, and this supreme feeling of bliss. And as I stepped out, I also saw the bright full moon. As I said earlier, it was a full moon day. And as I walking towards my room, I started talking to the moon. And my daughter is named after the moon, so there's also that association for me with that. So I was having conversations with the moon as I walked home. And I decided that I was going to take a longer route by the beach as I walked over to my room. And that was the moment when something scared the shit out of me. It was this cat. This cat's name is Yellow Mellow. It's Dylan's cat, this facilitator, and it sprung out of nowhere behind my left side, and I screamed as if I had seen that tiger that was in my vision right before my eyes. And in that instant, we both locked eyes with each other, and we both saw such deep fear in each other's eyes. We are both fearful, and we are both waiting for the other to walk away first. And I had to come to terms with the fact that there's nothing to be fearful of. And as I let go of the fear, I could also see the fear in Yellow Mellow's eyes melt away. And he walked all on his own, and I walked all on my own, and we were both happy campers. And then very quickly, I reached my room. And the first thing I did as soon as I reached my room was I grabbed my phone and sent a text to hubby. I thought I was recording a voice note, but I didn't realize that I didn't hit the voice note properly. There I was like recording such long voice note, and then only to realize that I had not hit the record button. So then I had to sit there and type everything. And even as I was typing, it felt like all the keys were typing by themselves without me having to put in any effort. And apparently, one important announcement that I'd missed earlier is that they had said take a shower after ceremony. And they'd also given specific instructions on if you should be taking a cold shower or a hot shower based on what your ceremony felt like that day. But since I had missed this announcement, I went to bed right away. And also, the other announcement that I'd missed was apparently, if you're on your moon cycle, they will reduce the dosage that they give you. But I didn't hear when they mentioned that, and I didn't mention that to them that I was on my moon cycle. So I got the same amount of dosage that everybody else got, which likely made sure that I had more of an intense experience with ayahuasca. And you would think that when I went to bed, the conversations would have stopped, because right now I was not feeling the influence of ayahuasca. But guess what? The conversations continued. I'm like, oh my god, how much do you guys talk? Can you all please shut up? My entire lineage and my entire ancestors, they're all talkative people. They kept going from one thing to another, to another, and to another, to another. And I remember continuously saying, I am complete for today. I am complete for now. I need to rest. Let me go. I am complete for today. I am done for now. I need to rest. Let me go. But she wouldn't let me. And then I had two more episodes in my room. By two more episodes, I mean two more rainbows in my room. And I was so bloody exhausted. And thankfully, they leave a bucket by your bedside and they leave a bucket also in the room. So, yes, triple rainbow on day one of my ceremony, which was exhausting. And I guess I finally went to sleep somewhere around 3 a.m. or so, only to wake up at 5 a.m. and start all of it all over again. Got up at 5, got ready, headed to the beach, did my usual thing while being immensely grateful for everything that I was experiencing, including the shitty moments, literally and figuratively. And on the other side, I was so confused. I was like, is this for real? What is even going on? How do I make sense of any of this? I was also navigating that. However, while I was at the beach, I felt this call to ground, continue to ground for as long as possible. So I did just that while surrendering more and more to Mother Nature, to the water, to the sand, to the trees, to the birds, everything else all around me, to the sun and the skies, everything. I was grounding, I was calling in the higher energies to help me through this phase of the ceremonies that I was sitting in. Later on, I went to yoga. After we wrapped up yoga, got breakfast, and sat at the Noble Silence table because I didn't want to talk to anyone just yet. Not until our sharing circle, which would happen at 10 a.m. after the ceremony night. So every morning at 10 a.m., we would have a sharing circle where everybody from the group comes together back at the temple and we start talking about what we would like to share from our experience from the previous night. And the sharing circle is so powerful because it really helps us put to words some of the things that we are experiencing, as well as get more of a perspective on what had come up for us, what we were processing. And also hearing from others helps you feel like you're not alone in this journey. Even though everybody's experience was completely different, there is something so powerful about others holding the space for you as you share as much or as little as you wanted to share. So that was the goal of the sharing circle. Nobody was giving anybody any advice. If we wanted to share something, we would share. We would all hold that talking stick. And when we were sharing, nobody else was talking. From everything that I heard from others during the sharing circle, it sounded like a lot of people during ceremony 1 didn't really experience as much of the ayahuasca. And some of us had more of an intense experience, and some mentioned that they had a really hard time. Again, everyone's journey is their own. We were just listening to each other and holding space for each other. And one of the things the facilitators mentioned is if you didn't experience much of the ayahuasca, then it means that you're too much in your head and not surrendering to the process. You're not allowing your body to actually react to the medicine the way it would otherwise if your mind didn't get in the way. So that was like a takeaway for a lot of people who couldn't really get themselves to experience what ayahuasca had to offer that night. And during the sharing circle, I also shared with the facilitators that, hey, do you want to know a fun fact? I had a triple rainbow last night. Talk about being an overachiever and talk about your ego taking over, right? I had the pleasure of experiencing triple rainbow, for better or worse. Jokes aside, but based on everything that I shared about my experience with the facilitators mentioned that looks like you have had a great connection with Aya, and that's why you felt or experienced as much as you did in just one night. Having 5 generations come through for you and being able to heal through so much for not just yourself but for your lineage, as well as being able able to have that kind of intense conversations with your ancestors only goes to show that you've been fully in the process and you've established a great connection with Aya. So keep going with the rest of the ceremonies in the similar fashion is kind of what I received from the facilitators, and that's exactly what I did. But again, there's always surprises. And I'd also scheduled a massage for that day later on. So I went and got my massage so I could prep really well for the upcoming ceremony. That was ceremony 2 that was going to take place that very night. I really needed this massage to also not just process things on my own. As they're giving you the massage, they also help you release so much of the stuck energies too, and that's so important. So that massage really helped me. Lunch again was super delicious, super nourishing. I was on and off journaling throughout to process everything from the first ceremony. I also bring my coloring books and color pencils, etc. wherever I go. And even at the dining hall, they had access to a good couple of books as well as coloring books, etc. So I spent some time also coloring, helping myself wrap my head around everything that was coming up for me. And with that, all in all, with ceremony number 1, despite how hard the whole experience was, overall, I came out of ceremony number 1 being eternally grateful for everything that had come up for me, despite the hardships that I went through ceremony number 1. And the pattern that I also noticed with ceremony number 1 was dealing with everything related to my past. So in my mind, I'm already coming to conclusions about what ceremony 2, ceremony 3, ceremony 4, etc. we're going to be like. But as always, Mother Ayahuasca is not going to give you what you want. She's going to give you what you need. So stay tuned to hear all about my experience with ceremony number 2, ceremony number 3, and ceremony number 4 in the upcoming episodes. Thank you for joining me on another episode of this podcast. I appreciate your time, your presence, your commitment, and your willingness to embark on this journey of self-discovery, transformation, and manifestation. If anything you heard today resonated with you, sparked new insights, or brought about aha moments, I'd love to hear all about them. So please share your thoughts by tagging me on social media at Passion, Purpose, Passport, and follow me there for more inspiring content and connection. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and show your support by liking, reviewing, and sharing this podcast. The more good we share with the world, the more the universe unfolds its magic for us. It's not just good karma, it's the universal law, aka Manifestation 101. By the way, you will receive my free manifestation meditation as a token of gratitude for sharing your reviews on iTunes. Take a screenshot before submitting and send it to my team at manifest@passionpurposepassport.com. On that note, align your mind, body, heart, and soul with your deepest desires for limitless possibilities. Remember, every step you take, every action you choose, ripples through the universe, shaping the reality you wish to experience. Until next time, keep basking in the brilliance of your inner golden hour and keep manifesting miracles.